everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of On the Bluff. I'm your host, Christian Fowler, and joining me, as always, my co-host, Gabe Kuhn. And jumping in on the first segment this week is our producer, Kenny Stubblefield. What's up, boys? How are y'all doing tonight?
Kenny, you go ahead first. You go first.
I'm lovely. Had a long weekend in the gym with my daughter playing volleyball. I love volleyball season. It's too much fun watching your kid play sports. So I love it.
Nice.
It's great.
Nice. I'm doing good. No complaints.
Yeah.
That's it.
No notes.
Easy weekend, simple weekend, child rearing, kind of like Kenny, except a lot younger.
Not watching him play sports.
But that's what I did this weekend. And we had a 3-year-old's birthday party on Sunday.
It's coming, Gabe. Gabe, your day is coming where you're going to be. Do you think, are you going to ask your dad any advice on how to be a good sport dad? Like, what was he like as a sport dad? Was he pretty intense?
No, he was not at all.
I feel like Tom would be super chill.
Yeah, he's very chill. Very chill. The only thing he would get mad at is effort. He's definitely the old school. I think that's what I would be. I obviously played football at a high level, so it's like hard to compartmentalize and not okay, if you're not playing at the level that I did, that's how a lot of sports dads can get. I don't think I'll be like that. I think I'll let Myers make his decisions on his own. If he doesn't even want to play football, I'll support that, believe it or not. Believe it or not.
Look at you. Listen, Gabe, there's one thing about Gabe that I don't think. Don't let the beard, don't let the big, don't let all that fool you. He is a sensitive, well-evolved man.
He's a lib.
He is. He's a tree hugger.
Gabe's a lib, man.
Oh, that's too much. That is too much to start the show on that. For me, it was chill this weekend. Friday night did absolutely nothing. Saturday we had a Mardi Gras party at Anna Ruth's parents' house with her family. They're big Mardi Gras people, so we had some gumbo and some other New Orleans style food. But it was.
You have a king cake?
We did.
King cake.
Did you get the baby?
Anna Ruth did actually.
Oh,
on our shared piece.
Whoa!
Like I was taking a bite, she was taking a bite. I was taking a bite, she was taking a bite, and then her bite had it. So I would say almost collectively.
Why didn't you get your own piece? By the way,
Do what?
Why didn't you get your own piece? Why you got to share one piece?
Dude,
passing forks back and forth. And
I had eaten.
That is not hygienic.
I had eaten so much gumbo. I didn't even need the king cake, but somebody brought it to me, and so it was kind of one of those like nudge. You got to share this with me things.
Have either of y'all ever been to like a Mardi Gras celebration, like New Orleans or Mobile?
No, not in
St. Louis. I've been to St. Louis's. That's it. I was going to say I highly recommend though St. Louis. Slower than New Orleans, still
but
fun.
Still good time.
Yeah, a lot of bars down there by the riverfront.
Too much.
What?
I feel like New Orleans is just like too much.
Yeah.
Especially for we know my speed's pretty slow. So
slow down.
Yeah. You're not one that's gonna walk down the street with a grenade in hand.
No.
That's not you. So I can see where that would be a problem.
And by grenade, you mean not a real live grenade, right? Like
everyone knows. Everyone knows what I mean by grenade.
I don't know what you mean.
What are you kidding me?
You ever heard of a hand grenade?
No.
The drinks
are you trolling us right
now? No, I'm not.
They're drinks that come in like a grenade.
Never heard of it.
Are you kidding me?
I thought everybody in the United States of America knew what a hand grenade was.
God, you uncultured swine.
Let me get a picture for you.
All right.
Yeah. It's like one of those fruity type drinks with the big.
So now you understand my confusion when you say Christian's not going to walk down the street with a grenade in his hand. I'm like, okay, like I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, those are the grenades.
I have never seen those a day in my life. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm sorry, guys.
Have you ever been to New Orleans? You ever been to Bourbon?
I've been one time. Then
you should definitely remember what grenade.
It was a very long time ago. It was a very long time.
Or they've had them then. They've had them for
a
long time, Kenny. And don't do like it's been a very long time. It's not like it was 70 years ago. Okay.
Come on, Grandpa.
Yeah.
20 at most.
I've done a lot of living, boys. I don't know what to tell you.
It's all that hard living you're doing.
I'm still having a hard time.
Getting up to you. Your memory's going. It's the first to go.
Christian, have you recovered sufficiently from the snow and ice? I know you had a long week because of it.
Today, okay, I'm gonna try to condense this as much as I can, so I don't go too long on this. But so we have my dad's company has contracts to all the First Horizons, Senatobia to Jackson. So when it snows, ices, we have to go like push the parking lots and everything. The snow came Tuesday night, I believe. So Monday, I was like, I'm gonna come home from work, take a nap, do the podcast, go back to or after the podcast is over, I'm gonna try to stay up as late as possible. So did that, stayed up till 4:30 in the morning on Monday because I was going to try to come home early Tuesday and sleep. I ended up not getting home from work until 5 o'clock Tuesday night. Went to sleep at 6, woke up at 9, left the house at 11 to go start doing snow melt, and got back at like 4 p.m. Wednesday.
Oh God, dude, I'd be
And so
bedridden for 2 weeks.
Yeah, this is the first day. I actually finally woke up this morning and was like, I feel pretty normal today. I thought it was gonna be Saturday. I was like, if I get a couple good nights of sleep Saturday, I'll feel pretty good. No, I was a couple days off because this morning I finally woke up and was like, you know what? I feel like I actually have energy again. I don't feel like a zombie. So
wow.
Yeah, it took some time, but back in it, back in the game.
Yeah, now the weather's good, so like all that stuff, all the work you did wore off in like 3 days.
That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. I get paid pretty well for that. So
Okay, good. Glad to hear
snow
it.
days. We like the snow days.
Let me hold 20.
Yeah,
Okay,
man.
I'll give you 20. All right, boys. Well, let's move it right along. Let's talk about some University of Memphis basketball. Got back in the win column after beating FAU by 19. Don't know what it is about FAU, but clearly they have their number. They've throttled them twice now. So coming off of the overtime loss against Wichita State, Memphis needed to rebound pretty much just for like morale's sake. It didn't need to really look ugly again. If you're a Memphis fan, I'm sure you did not want it to look ugly again. So this kind of goes back to the examples that we've been talking about all year. When they suffer a loss, they're not like previous teams where they let it weigh on them and they, let that loss cost them another loss. They bounced back pretty well, and they did that again against FAU. Dane Danger led the way. Defense played really well. Offense played really well. It was just a all-around pretty easy win for them against FAU again. So it was it's about as good as you can ask for coming off a loss.
Yeah, I'll say this. I think this type of result is exactly what our good friends at the net wanted. Bart Torvik, he thinks this is what every game should look like. And Ken Pomeroy thinks that every game should look like that. It's hard to do that. This team played as well as it possibly could, quite frankly. They kept the turnovers down. They only had 9. When they turned FAU over, everything ended in a basket on the other end. 24 points off 11 turnovers.
Yeah.
They played really damn good ball. And in the second half, seeing Dane Danger and PJ Haggerty, who didn't have like a perfect first half by any stretch of the imagination, turn it on and get going just like that. That was a sight to see, man. But I thought that was one of the weirdly enough, I know they've beaten a lot of good teams, and I know they didn't even shoot the 3 ball overly well in this game. I think this was one of their best performances of the season, especially in that second half. It was very well done, in my opinion. And I don't think FAU made an extreme amount of mistakes. I thought the Tigers went out there and handled business.
Yeah, it was. There is something special about, early on in the season, we saw PJ just kind of take over games and just dominate, right? Like we've seen him just come in and just exert his will. It has been really special to see Dane do that. And especially in that second half. It might have been a carryover from the first half, but there was a time where I think he scored double-digit straight points in a row for the Tigers. Just really came in and just exerted force, exerted his will, and his emergence has been a really, really big deal for this Tigers team.
Yeah.
Know what really does hype me up too? He's making his free throws, man.
Yes.
He shoots like a line drive. It's so disgusting looking, but it's been going in more often than it doesn't now. He was 6 for 7 from the free throw line. I think this game, with the 44 combined points between Dane and PJ and how they were getting their points, I think highlights a interesting sort of reality for this team. I'm going to say this, and it's going to sound so stupid at first. I think this team is better suited to beat good teams than bad teams. And the reason I say that is because they are a lot more like against bad teams. You're running your stuff. You're trying to get to some sets, do that type of thing. You're trying to not let mistakes get to you, try not to make mistakes. And sometimes that's just going to happen, especially through the long haul of a conference schedule. But against good teams, what this team can do, they can run. That's what they want to do, but they don't have to do that. They can play defense. They can get out and get going. And then I think with Dane and PJ, this is the most important point I want to drive home. You don't have to run sets to get them going. They are in a half court situation. They're cheat codes. Yeah. And I think this is probably the best that Penny Hardaway has had in that realm. I guess you could put Kendrick and DeAndre there as well. But those two guys are erasers once you get into your half-court offense. You could be late in the shot clock, they'll go create. You have the inside-out game scoring at all three levels with PJ. Anything from the free throw line in, Dane Danger has. And I think as you get into the tournament against good teams, that is so damn valuable. So damn valuable. Against bad teams, it's not as valuable. Yeah. Right? But against those good teams, to be able to get into your half court and find a way to, even without running a whole bunch of different plays and sets, to have two guys that can just go get a bucket whenever you need them to. I think that's so damn important because we know, similar to the NBA playoffs, like once you get into the NCAA tournament, the defenses start to screw down. They they run a bunch of different things at you. So I think those two guys have highlighted how good this half-court offense is and how much better they have made it this season.
Yeah, and I think specifically with Dane, like Kenny was talking about how good it is to see him doing what he's doing and dominating. But I think maybe now, since we're so removed from it, like we forget, a lot of us were waiting to see like when that was going to get turned on, because it felt like, not that Penny was hiding him or anything, but it just felt like it was really flowing through PJ and Tyrese. Like 95% of the offense was going through PJ and Tyrese. And once Dane got inserted back in the starting lineup, I think we just really saw a shift in his overall mentality, like sense of urgency, and then just from the coaching staff, more of a desire to get him the ball and get looks for him. And I think it's changed this team, and kind of like Gabe saying that it's made them more well inclined to be able to take on good teams now, because I think they have more of a threat inside that they weren't really showing consistently earlier in the season. And having the backcourt that they do is great, but having multiple different things where you have a backcourt that's as dangerous as PJ and Tyrese are, but also having the threat of a post player, just with the overall skill set that Dane has and with what he can do down low. And it just feels like over the last several weeks since that decision's been made, it's just fully unlocked this offense. And of course, we've seen lulls here and there. We've seen slow starts to the game. We've seen, the loss to Wichita State. So we've seen some ugliness throughout it, but for the most part, like, they have been full stride since Dane Danger was put into the starting lineup.
And I do think, along with that same conversation, since Dane got in the starting lineup, I hate to say it this way, okay, but do you get the sense it feels like he's playing harder?
Yeah, that's like, kind of what I meant. Like, more of a sense.
Feels like he's doing different things. Like he had 4 blocks in that game, 3 steals.
Yeah.
He had 3 offensive rebounds. He's passing out of the post now because he knows, okay, I'm going to get my touches anyway. If I don't have it on this particular possession, let me pass out of the post. When he was on the bench, he would grab it and go. Whether he turned it over or missed a shot, he didn't really care. He was trying to get his shots up. Now he knows he's going to get his shots, his requisite amount of shots, so he's able to do some different things. And I think that's been damn impressive from him as well. Now, I want to point something out real quick. Tigers, AP top 25. They're number 18 in the country right now. But in the top 15, as of the newest AP poll, you have Auburn at 1, Michigan State at 8, Clemson at 13, and Mizzou at 14. So if you're like following along with those teams, 4 top 15 teams the Tigers have played, they're 3-1 in those games. So I'm going to pose this question. Are they getting enough credit for their wins? We know that they get docked for their losses, but are they getting enough credit for the wins that they had in their out of conference?
No, I mean, it's an easy answer of no. And I think, we can scold people for that and say that they're wrong or whatever. But I think just looking deeper past that, the reason why, because I know a lot of people have been like, are people not understanding what Gabe just said, basically, that Memphis has beat 3 top 15 teams this year. And it's not that, and I know it's kind of the obvious answer, but it's just so far removed that
Yeah.
people have trouble dipping back into November and
We were playing
December.
football then, you know,
Right,
we were playing
exactly.
regular season football then.
Exactly. So people just have trouble dipping back into that and kind of putting Memphis on the pedestal that they kind of deserve for what they did in the non-conference. And it's unfair. Like, I mean, it's not fair because they beat those teams. But at the end of the day, like it's just par for the course for Memphis. Like there's nothing they can do to change it. That's the part that sucks. There's literally nothing they can do. Like Penny schedules one of the most difficult non-conference schedules in the country for that reason, but there's nothing that he can do after that's over. Once conference play starts, he can't control whether any of these teams are good. I mean, it'd be great for Memphis if UAB was a top 25 team that they had beaten. It'd be great for Memphis if FAU was as good as they were a couple years ago. Those things would give Memphis an opportunity to get some of those marquee wins where people could continue giving them credit. But when you compare and contrast and you go, okay, they did this in November and December, but then they lost to Temple and Wichita State. They dropped a couple conference games. That's what's fresh on the mind. And that's just like basic human psychology. That's all there is to it. Like, what have you done for me lately type of mentality is how people are going to look at it, whether it's fair or not. I'm not saying that
what's
it's fair.
ridiculous though? What have you done for
Yes.
me lately? Here's what really does bother me about the whole thing. It's like I get that they're losing to quad 3 teams. What have they done for you lately? They've won 9 of their last 10. They had an 8-game winning streak. And it's like it just doesn't mean shit. It means nothing. Zilch, zero. It's like I it's so frustrating to me because I like Evan Miyakawa, I think does a really good job. He has multiple metrics. He has a predictive metric, but he did his resume metric, like best resumes. And you would think now that we're like almost at the end of the season, most teams are getting close to wrapping up conference play going into the their conference tournament. You would think that the Tigers' resume would take a pretty significant drop, right? If the out of conference slate was there, they'd be probably top 5. You would figure with all the games that they've added and won and lost, it would have dropped down pretty substantially.
Yeah.
They're 14th still in his metric, according to his resume metric, strength of resume. And like, I just don't know how with these predictive metrics, they can't match, at least like take that into consideration. It's just strange to me. It's just, I know I got proved wrong last year by Bart Torvik, who was never right, never high on the Tigers team, and they obviously fell off. He was correct.
That was
but this
way
year,
earlier in the season.
I've said it every week since I've sort of looked at these metrics and the Tigers have been in the AP poll. It feels like they're waiting for a fall off that's not coming.
Right.
Do you think so? Penny said he's mentioned a few times. I want to get y'all's thoughts on this. Christian, you kind of posed a question. There's nothing they can do, right? Like what are they supposed to do once they get into conference? They do what they do, right? Penny has kind of floated the idea of potentially scheduling some out of conference games during the conference schedule to help boost up the schedule again. And there is precedent for it. Like we've seen,
like we just saw MSG this past weekend,
right?
ACC
like we've seen, right? We've seen teams do this. How feasible do you think that that's possible, or do you think that that is the answer for the question you pose, Christian?
That's a tough one. I feel like that's a you can win or you can lose that. I mean, I think you can make arguments for it either way. Like let's say that they did do something where they played games in the middle of the conference schedule against non-conference teams. A couple of different ways that can go. Like you can win those games and drop a couple more conference games, which is exactly the point that you're in now. Like even if Memphis was to get a marquee win now and lose 2 bad conference games.
But you lost to Temple, dude.
Right.
Like,
then you're back to square one.
That?
You're back to square one. And I could see something like that happening because it's like, the coaching staff would put a ton of focus into that because it's like, hey, guys, this is our last opportunity for a marquee win. So all the focus is going there. And then you win that game, but then you drop a game or another 2 games down the road, and then it's back to square one. So I think a lot of people would probably say, oh, yes, let's do that. But I honestly think that could be a hindrance 2-conference schedule. Like, let's say Memphis has the conference losses that they had this year and add another one, and then it does nothing. So I just think that you could be, for lack of a better term, more just pissing in the wind doing that than anything else. Like, I don't know how much that would
You'd
actually
have to find a
help.
pretty substantial taker on a neutral site or something like that. It
Right.
would be really hard to schedule that.
Right, especially with
Because
a
the
good
reason
team,
that
with a good team that's in the midst of a very difficult conference schedule, they're just
Right.
not going to go for that.
Well, the reason that like we saw MSG this weekend the way it was, Illinois and Duke, is that's TV appeal to that. A lot of TV appeal, especially
Exactly.
with Duke not playing anybody in the ACC. ACC stinks. Memphis doesn't have that same appeal.
Right.
And I don't know what sort of blue blood or program would sign up for that in the middle of their conference slate.
Yeah.
I don't see it happening.
I actually like the idea that you're
I do too.
posing. I just don't know how
hate it.
feasible it is. I don't know if it's possible.
Yeah,
But
I don't know.
honestly, any idea to try to break up the monotony of this shitty conference schedule, I'm all for. Any idea, any and every idea.
Brother, I will say this, man, as somebody who's at all the home games, the monotony of the conference schedule gets so old. Like, it is just, oh God. So Dink Yates is actually at Penny Hardaway's press conference that he's doing at Brookhaven, the Brookhaven
coaches show.
Yeah, the coaches show. And he just gave a quote that I thought it was hilarious, and I wanted to bring this up. So Dink actually played, he's a walk-on. He came in and he played. He's a local kid. Came in and played 9 minutes, gave good productivity when he was out there. And he was asked, like, did you expect to go in? And he said, honestly, I didn't, man. When I saw Penny looking down the bench at me, I thought he was looking at someone's popcorn. Like, I didn't know what was going on. Hilarious quote, by the way. But I wanted to bring this up. This is something I've been thinking about. Penny has been really, I think, doing a pretty awesome job this year of pressing the right buttons for this team in really opportune times, right? Like, we've seen it, whether it be lineup changes, we've seen it, whether, who handles the ball, who doesn't, conversations that he's having. We've seen some more behind the scenes stuff of him, the way he converses with the players. We've seen the way that he's utilized the rotations, how he's, obviously with Musa starting and then bringing Dane in. And then in this past game against FAU, it was clear that the starters came in and we're just playing flat, right? We're just not playing up to the energy level that Penny wanted. And what did he do? He subbed his energy dudes, Dante Allen and Baraka Okogie, in, and then brought in Dink Yates and gave some minutes.
Harris, by the way.
Sorry. Yeah.
What did I say?
Allen. I was
Who's Dante Allen? I don't know. Dante Harris.
But Dante Harris.
I think I've said that privately like 150 times. I've called him Dante Allen the entire time. Is he a football? Anyway, Dante Harris, excuse me. Brought Dante Harris in, brought Baraka in, and brought Dink in. And it just revived. Like, you could see the energy in the arena. It instantly flipped, right? Like, everything changed. Have y'all seen that as well? Like, Penny pushing the right buttons for this team?
Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of examples.
The best example, I think, is what we talked about earlier with Dane. And you would have to say in worlds past and years past, like, if Penny saw someone like Dane that he deemed before the season started that he would be better served for the team coming off the bench, and then he wasn't necessarily excelling in that role and going maybe all out at times like we talked about earlier, Penny might have shoved him further down potentially. And taking more minutes away from him and let players that were, like in his words, like had more desire to be out there. But instead it was like, no, there's a reason this guy has been a very good player, is one of our best players, and probably should be in the starting lineup. Maybe this wasn't the right call to bring him off the bench, insert him into the starting lineup. And we've seen what he's done since. And to me, that's the biggest example of just growth from him, because I just can vividly see in years past, like, that would have been like a big no-no. You're kind of mark at that point in the doghouse.
And he might have gone to the media and said, Dane, he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing, that kind of stuff, like we've seen him do in the past.
We brought him here to do.
And here's some other, like, I just want to bring up a couple of examples that I think are way more important than people like make them right now. Tyreek Smith, getting rid of him, that was pushing the right button, guys. That was 100%. And then PJ Carter, he pulled PJ Carter aside and said, dude, stop being happy to be here. Be
Yeah.
happy when you have good performances. Work your
Yeah.
ass off a little bit. PJ
Right.
took that, and he's turned into a heck of a contributor for this team. And the other thing I do want to mention, Penny's doing a good job advocating for himself for tournament seeding. And like, if we were 26-0, I think we'd still be a 6 seed. These are the things you're supposed to do. Like, he is finally here 6-7 years into this thing. He's behaving like a veteran basketball coach.
He's comfortable.
And he's comfortable walking in his own shoes.
Yeah.
And like, I actually feel that. There's been like moments where I've been thinking, like last year in the out of conference, I'm like, it feels like he's more comfortable in his own shoes, but obviously that went out the window pretty quickly. But this year, it's a no-nonsense veteran basketball coach who's tired of having, middling results. And
Yeah.
I appreciate the changes he's made. Now, want to talk a little football? We have the NFL Combine coming up starting today. The kickers and the long snapper. Well, no, that'll be Wednesday. Long snappers and everything will start Wednesday. Then we'll have on-field workouts staggering from Wednesday.
It really starts Thursday.
Sunday.
Hey, that's disrespect. Hey, that's rude. Hey, listen, come on, man.
We have 2 Memphis Tigers, 1-2 in the NFL Combine. One is Seth Hennigan, and then the other is Rock Taylor. I'm just going to go ahead and ask. Give me your thoughts on each of them, and I'll let my thoughts be known as well.
I think we talked about Seth a little bit a few weeks ago, and I think he could stick as like a backup guy in the NFL. He's super intelligent, a lot of experience. Started from the time he was a freshman, his whole career at Memphis. Coach's son, dad was his high school coach at Ryan. Like, he has some of those intangibles that you look for in backup quarterbacks, because in most backup quarterbacks you look around the league, it's not the biggest arms, it's not the best athletes, it's guys who that if you are in an absolute pinch and you need somebody, you bring somebody in who knows the offense, is going to get you into the right plays and be able to read a defense and make the right look and make 2 or 3 throws a game to give you a chance. That's what a backup quarterback is in the NFL. I think Seth could potentially do that. And will he get drafted? Maybe late, maybe undrafted guy. But if you get picked up as a UDFA, and Gabe, we talked about this on your show a few weeks ago. If you get picked up as a UDFA as a quarterback, you have a pretty good shot of sticking, because nobody's going to pay you money as a quarterback if they don't think you can potentially make the team. So I think there's a possibility. Maybe he's a backup guy. Maybe he's a third string that kind of bounces around different practice squads, active day rosters as the number 3 quarterback, which if I could sign up for that, I absolutely would. That sounds like a great life.
I think the best case scenario is for Seth to end up behind a legend.
Yeah.
Be behind Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen.
Yeah.
And just stick there for a second, hang out, be that backup quarterback, man. Make some money.
Yeah, and for Rock, I just don't know. I feel like Rock is a very similar player to DeMonte Coxey, who we saw come through Memphis a few years ago, and he just didn't have the speed to be a major player in the NFL. I think he ran like a 4.8 or a 4.9. It was really low. I don't really know what Rock will run, but he is a bigger guy that's not really known for his speed or shiftiness or route running. He's kind of just a 50-50 ball guy. And even some of the really good ones in college just don't make it in the league.
Yeah.
I mean, that you can attest to that, Gabe. Like, some of the Hakeem Butler is someone that immediately jumps to mind.
Been in the UFL kicking ass though for years.
He's been great in the UFL, but never made it in. He could never make it in the NFL. So a lot of those big, strong 50-50 jump ball guys, if they're not also fast and good route runners like a Mike Evans type, it's tough for them to stick. So I'll be interested to see what he runs and just to see his smoothness in the on the field drills, and I think that'll tell us a lot about if he actually has a chance to maybe stick around on a practice squad or something like that.
And the difference is Hakeem Butler's 6'6".
Correct.
He's huge.
Yeah.
Rock is like he plays like a 6'5" wide receiver, but he's not 6'5".
No.
Like that's to me the problem.
Yeah.
I like him a lot. I think he has a chance, especially like with special teams and all the things you can get involved in as a wide receiver. Like, I think he's got a shot to stick on a team, but like, he's not going to run overly fast. He's not like some unbelievable route runner. I think he's a little bit better than Coxie was, but like not that much better. His ball skills are good, but compared to guys that are going to be that you're going to compare him to, probably not not at the top of that list.
Yeah.
He's a big tweener to me. And if he gets the combine and surprise everybody, pulls out a 4.4, that could change the fortune for him completely.
Yeah, he could have a chance.
But I just don't expect that necessarily to happen. We'll see, though. We'll see.
I don't either. Let's talk about
real quick. Sorry,
Yeah.
I was gonna. Maybe you were gonna go here with this as well.
Chandler Martin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's one guy who I think I have the most hope to land on an NFL team and have a longer career. I think Chandler Martin will probably play the most ball of any of these guys at the NFL level.
Yeah.
And it's because he's just one of those guys that, like, he'll get in front of these decision makers and coaches, and he'll wow them, and he'll play special teams willingly, and he's a good tackler, and he's relatively athletic. And the only thing wrong with him is he's short.
Nice.
If he was 6'3", he may be like a top 5 interior inside linebacker in this NFL draft, but he's not. But he's one of those guys that they're going to overlook in the pre-draft process, but he'll probably land somewhere and stick. That's just who he is.
Yeah, I think you summarized it perfectly. Like, he's one of those traditional, like, overlooked, cast off guys. He's short, he's undersized, but I think his football IQ is too high. I think he's too just generally intelligent of a human being. And I think he's too good on a football field to not stick somewhere at the professional level, whether that's special teams or whatever the case may be. Like, I just think he's too good of a player not to have a chance. I can't see. It's kind of like Blake Watson last year. We talked about him, and he ended up making the active roster for the Broncos as a UDFA, and even getting a little bit of playing time during his rookie year. I think it's a similar case with Chandler Martin. I just think he's too good to keep off the field.
Are we at all surprised that Mario Anderson Jr. is not getting any? I mean, we're not hearing his name at all pre-draft stuff.
No.
I listen. Mario Anderson Jr., great running back. I thought he was phenomenal this year. Fit it perfectly. He is almost the anti-running back that they take in the NFL now.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
He's like Aldrick Estime, but a lot slower.
He's 5'10". Instead of Aldrick Estime being 6'2", 250.
Right. But you know what I mean? Just big backs are not in. It's not a thing.
And if Mario becomes past this, brother, I'm not offending it. I'm not trying to offend. And that doesn't mean he can't make a roster. It's just like in the NFL right now, you have to be multiple in your talents, catching the ball and running the ball.
Twitchy.
You have to be able to run in zone schemes, which he showed the ability to do. But like, he's just not very fast. Can't really catch the ball out of the backfield very well. And I think that sort of hurts his case. Like,
there aren't many grinders at the NFL level.
Yeah. Like Aldrick Estime is like, in recent memory, that's the only guy I can think of that fits that mold. But he's huge. Like, Algier was kind of dynamic when he was at BYU. Like,
but as far like he's not really a home run hitter. He's more of a in between the tackles, 3, 4, 5 yard guy. Like, just
I get, but what I'm saying is, like, he showed at BYU a pretty decent wide skill set.
Yes, agreed.
And Mario had good stats. I don't know if he like displayed some vast skill set, catching the ball out of the backfield, being able to be split out. You know, if you're taking a back in the NFL draft, 9.99 times out of 10, they're going to take a guy who can be a home run threat and can catch a ball out of the backfield. And
I mean, am I wrong?
That doesn't fit Mario.
Am I wrong to think that he could potentially? I mean, again, I haven't watched a ton of this team, so I don't. But David Montgomery, right, for the Detroit Lions, like he's a kind of a grinder running back as well.
David Montgomery is an extremely underrated catcher of the football.
Do you remember him at Iowa State?
No, I don't.
Chicago, he caught a ton of balls in Chicago.
Yeah, but he was a freak at Iowa State too.
Oh yeah,
catching the ball in the backfield.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just that's the problem you run into. Like, I don't know. He reminds me of a guy, and I know this guy got into a lot of trouble later in his football career. But do you guys remember Zach Stacy
Yes.
from Vanderbilt? Played for
Vanderbilt.
the Rams.
Yep.
That's who Mario reminds me of.
Yeah, I agree.
They
They got the
do
same
not-
body style. They
don't take backs like that anymore. That is
No,
just
they don't.
it's
It's not
in
a
the
thing.
past.
No, it's not a thing at all. All right, boys. Well, let's take a quick break, and we'll be back on the other side with the hot three.
I'm no math person, but I think the odds of him at least, I think he's the favorite for defensive player of the year as of, well, I don't know after that game, but as of yesterday, he was. Odds of him making a all NBA team at this point, I just feel like are
Could be plus odds. Yeah.
very, very high.
Grizzlies need him to make this so that they can offer him more money than other teams can. But because they got him at such a bargain on his second contract because of his injuries and whatnot, I believe that his next contract, if he doesn't hit an all NBA team, his raise that he can, the extension that he's eligible for is actually less than what other teams can offer him as a free agent. So you need him to hit this. And I know $350 million is a lot of money, but you need to be able to say, like, hey, we can offer you more money than they can. I know you probably want to be here anyways, but let's not let it be about the money.
Tune into The Daily Grind with your host, Luke Hatmaker, every Monday through Friday at 7:30 a.m. live on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
Man, I can really write a story, a book about Dane Danger. He reminds me of a Grizzlies, former Grizzlies player, Zach Randolph, with his footwork. When I see those two, man, you have two different ways now that the Tigers can find a way to score. Between Haggerty with his self-creation and Danger being able to be a post threat, it has alleviated a lot of pressure from earlier this season, which you had the Tigers being so guard-centric on scoring. And now when you've established Danger, this allows different avenues and scoring. Basketball is typically played inside out, and that's what the Tigers are pretty much doing now, especially when you have Dane Danger there. I understand that the Tigers enjoy pace and like playing it fast, but in a half-court setting, Dane Danger is the answer.
Tune in to Tigers Live with Francis Carlotta, live after every Memphis Tiger basketball game on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel. Let's go. Let's get some hot three action.
Let's do it.
You guys ready?
Yes.
Let's have it nice and hot. Serve
have
it
it.
hot.
Served hot,
Piping hot.
boys. Piping hot. Here we
Sounds
go.
like
Not
Gabe's
lukewarm, hot.
Sounds like Gabe's feeling nicey.
Yeah, John Gruden's a psycho, dude.
He's awesome.
Have y'all seen him on Barstool? Y'all like what
Yes.
he's doing?
I
Dude
have.
is so good.
He's
man.
awesome.
He's so
He
good.
is good. Like, it's, I don't think he should have been completely blackballed by everybody. I think it's fine. He's working at Barstool. He is a psychopath, though. Like, he's
he's
one of those
awesome.
guys. He reminds me of my old special teams coordinator, James Shebest, where, like, no matter what, you're not talking about life with that guy. You are talking about football and only football, and that's it. That's all. That's all his brain does is football.
Yep.
All right, let's get to topic number one. Let's stay local, but let's go NBA for a second. Jaren Jackson Jr. is in line for one of the biggest contracts in the history of the NBA. Supermax extension, $345 million extension. Boys, come on, man. Like, anybody else signed up for that? Y'all want? I'll take a piece, right? Like, that's crazy. Yeah. $345 million. So there's some parameters around kind of how he's available for that extension, and obviously that Supermax extension, especially. Obviously, he has been in the running for the DPOY, the Defensive Player of the Year, all year. Wemby went out for the year with that horrific. I guess it's a blood clot.
It was a blood clot.
Clot.
Deep vein thrombosis.
Super scary stuff, man. Like it could, especially with it being so close to the heart, it could be a very bad thing. So he's out for the year. And then so his opportunity to win DPOY is just skyrocketed. He also has the opportunity to play to be named to an All NBA team, and I think he has to be named to the second team or above to be able to be available for that Supermax. Is Jaren, in y'all's opinion, is Jaren worth $345 million extensions?
I mean, kind of has to be, right? Like that. That's the thing is anybody really worth that much comparatively? Like it's kind of difficult, but yeah, he has to be. Like he has definitely cemented himself as the leader of this team this year, offensively, defensively. This team definitely goes as he goes now, and with the young roster that's intact, with the potential window that this team has, there's no way that you could afford not to bring Jaren Jackson Jr. back. It's not plausible for them to say that's too much money. We've got to let him walk or whatever. It's not plausible. So is he worth it? In my opinion, yeah, he has to be because he's the best player on this team. And if they're going to continue to be competitive and be one of the top teams in the Western Conference, then they have to have him. So if that's the case, then they got to pay him that much money.
Is he worth $345 million? I think I'll stick to the same sentiment there with you, Christian. Is anyone worth $345 million? But I'll make the case as to why he is. I'll do that right now. Offensively, his bag is huge now. Like he can score at basically all three levels. He's a matchup nightmare for opposing bigs. What he's able to do to put the ball on the ground. He's got guard moves off the dribble. Like that in itself, there's not a lot of 7-footers that can do that. When you have one, you should lock him up. Defensively, he's won a Defensive Player of the Year. He may be on the way to a second. And he can switch out on the perimeter. He blocks shots at a high rate. That's those are the things that we see every night. But also, there's two other things that I think make him worth $345 million for the Memphis Grizzlies. One, he is a great representative of the city.
Ooh, the best, man.
He's a VP at the NBA Players Association. Some people say this doesn't matter. It's about what he does on the floor, but I think this matters. He gives back to the city of Memphis all the time. Never been caught up in one singular incident off the floor ever. You don't even think about it. You don't even think about Jaren getting caught up in something he's not supposed to. And then here's the other part. Here's probably the most important part to making him as a star worth $345 million. He wants to be in Memphis.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, we can have a debate all day long about entertainers and athletes being worth the amount of money they're worth. But for the Grizzlies, he is worth every single last penny of that $345 million.
Undoubtedly.
So what's interesting is that he has, for that extension, there's these obviously with the players associate the collective bargaining agreements that are signed and put into place by the owners and by the players association. There are certain extensions that teams that have the bird rights to a player are allowed to give, right? Like they want players to stay in their respective towns.
That's why Luka lost out on so much money when he got traded.
Right. That because the Lakers don't have his bird rights. And so you would think that the Grizzlies would automatically be able to pay him more than any other team once this extension happens. But what's interesting, and it kind of goes to what you were talking about, Gabe, is that he has shown that he wants to be here in Memphis. And one of the ways that he's shown that is by having his last extension that goes through 25-26 was a heavily front-loaded extension that descended every year in terms of annual salary. And that was to help kind of pay for Ja Morant's massive extension that he got. And so there's this level of like, he took a lot of money up front, and instead of doing like normal contracts do, and that's extended, like ascending up in terms of value, he took one that descended. I say all that to say, what that has done though for the Grizzlies is that it's caused them to not have the ability to pay as much as other teams can pay once this extension comes up. The only way they can is if he wins the DPOY or is an all-NBA player. That's the only way that they can pay more or that they're guaranteed to be able to pay more. And so I guess my question is does that have his willingness to take a smaller, a lesser contract, a contract that's not friendly to him moving forward? Does that change? I mean, does that make you go even more so he's deserving of this 345?
Yeah, absolutely.
He's waited. Generally, that was a team-friendly contract, even when he signed it, in my opinion.
Yeah,
4 years, $104 million. So
I think it created kind of an uproar with the Players Association because they're like, "Yo, dude, like this hurts. This hurts everybody, right?"
Yeah.
Well, now my concern though lies in like the affordability of the team going forward. This puts you directly into the luxury tax.
Yeah,
I don't know all the implications. Let's talk to somebody from Spot Track or Over the Cap about it. I have no earthly idea about mid-level exception and how much it gets affected and blah 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 blah. But what I do know is it's a lot of money, and you're going to be paying a lot of money for this roster between Desmond Bane, Jaren, and Ja. And you just look around and like there's a couple of guys that you have to make decisions on, like Santi this offseason. Yeah. He's a restricted free agent. There's going to be a pretty substantial offer sheet out there for him. Yeah. Are you going to be able to match that? Luke Kennard, are you going to be able to keep him around? I don't know. So I obviously am happy for Jaren because I think he's going to win one of the two or probably both, Defensive Player of the Year and make first or second team All NBA. But it definitely complicates things, and we don't have to be shy about that. It complicates the affordability of this roster going forward.
It does. But I mean, it's kind of like what we talk about with the NFL quarterback contracts that come out. Like you just got to do it. Like
and especially in Memphis, man. Especially in Memphis,
right? Because we've seen
you don't have a choice.
We've seen, and I don't think it's because players don't want to come to Memphis. I think it's like Kevin Durant and Jimmy Butler.
No, I think it's because players don't want to come.
I don't know. I think that was a money situation, but Memphis is not. Okay, 100%.
I love my city. I love calling it home. I just love it. Stars don't want to play in Memphis.
I don't.
They don't want to live in the city of Memphis. I think that is almost 99% of it.
I disagree, but that's okay. I think that specifically the Jimmy Butler and KD thing was about money only for them. Jimmy wants his extension, and they're not going to give Jimmy the extension that he wanted with Jaren's extension coming up, with having to figure out Santi without having to figure out all those things.
If it's about money, let me ask you this: why do people pick LA over Memphis? Because the state income tax there is insane. Compared to here, you make more money on the same contract in Memphis. So if it's about money,
who's picked Memphis? I mean, who's picked LA over Memphis?
Well, I'm just saying, like, why do players always want to sign in LA? Whether it's the Clippers got Kawhi and Paul George, and the Lakers,
Lakers
LeBron and AD, and like I get, but like in these bigger cities that are viewed differently than Memphis. Guys sign all the time, regardless of what their pockets are looking like and that income tax looks like. They go for it.
I would say
they like
LA
to be in a bigger city and in a nicer city,
big market.
I would say LA has not proven that they've been able to build through free agency the way that you think they have. They've done a lot of the stuff through trades, and because they're willing to go into major salary deficits to fix.
Well, but people like some stars are totally fine with being traded to the Lakers. Like,
Yeah, I mean, trades are trades. Trades are trades. Like Luka had no choice.
Agree to disagree. I love my wonderful city.
That's fine. Yeah,
love to call it home.
It could potentially be that.
Agents don't want to come here. They don't want to live in Memphis.
The fact is that Jaren wants to be here. He talks about it all the time nationally, and so if you got a guy who's one of the top power forwards in the game, who is a awesome representative for your program and your city, and says, "I want to be here," you pay him what he's worth. Right. All right. Let's get on to the another topic in the NBA. Man, it has been interesting seeing Joel Embiid. Like, obviously, he's one of the more dominant players, MVP in the NBA. He's been great, but it is clear these last 2 years. I think he played 39 games last year. Came back, won the gold with the USA team. Which, by the way, have y'all seen Court of Gold yet?
I've seen part of it.
I haven't seen the whole thing.
Holy hell,
that's great. What I've seen is
freaking awesome. Anyway, came back. Now he's back, and he's in and out of the lineup. Can't stay healthy. Came out today or this week and was like, my knee is just is effed and there's nothing we can do. And he's like, I've been trying to do all these injections and all these different things and it's not working. We're going to have to figure this out. The Philadelphia 76ers got some imaging on his knee. Probably going to have to shut him down. And it's just, my question to y'all is Joel Embiid cooked at this point? Like, is his career, is he going to be a player that will be a dominant player like he has been in the previous seasons?
It's tough to keep saying that he will after we've seen this happen multiple times. And I think it kind of always felt like for Joel that the clock was going to be shorter than most players.
Yeah,
he missed his first 2 years with foot injuries. Is that what it was? His first two seasons pretty much that he missed?
After he missed the Kansas season, most of the Kansas season.
After injuries at Kansas. So it just kind of always felt like this guy's going to probably have knee, ankle, like those kind of issues, and his prime is probably going to be cut short because of it. So I don't know if we can say for certain that he's cooked, but like there's only so many more of these major injuries that he can withstand before he's not the player that he once was. Like he might stick around for, another 7-8 years and be a serviceable player, but will he ever return to the heights of 2 seasons ago winning the MVP? I don't know. It's difficult to say. I mean, that time is going by and he's not getting healthier or younger. So I don't know if he's cooked, but I think we've probably seen like prime Joel. Like it's probably downhill from this point. It's probably never going to return to the MVP level of 2022.
I'll give you a more affirmative answer. No. I mean, yes, he's cooked. No, he will never return to his MVP level self. He's like, you ever seen those turkey legs that they cook and then they shake off and everything falls off the bone? That's who he is right now. That's how cooked he is. I don't believe that Joel Embiid will ever be able to recreate a 30-point per game season. If you've watched him at all this year, you'd be able to see that visually. He has no lift anymore. His athleticism's gone downhill. He's still very high usage. But with his usage, all he does is try to draw fouls because he has no way of athletically beating you anymore. He's shooting a career low 44% from the field. Brother, you're 7 foot. You have no business shooting 44% from the field. He's 29% from 3. And the thing is, like the 76ers are trying to sell this bag of goods. Oh, if he had an extended period of time off, he'd be able to recover, make a full recovery, get back to his old self. Well, you've tried that, haven't you? Right. Barely played last year. And then like you look at most of this offseason, I know that the Olympics probably screwed him, which we could talk about if that was selfish or not. I don't blame him for going and getting a medal, but it's probably dumb of him with his injury history to play in the Olympics. But also they've sit him back-to-backs. They give him nights off. No, he's never making a full recovery. And if you know anything about meniscus tears, meniscuses don't just magically grow back. Like once they're damaged, they're damaged. And the more you wear down that thing, that's the cartilage from your, and I'm going to be very scientific here, your thigh bone and your shin bone. That's the cartilage there in your knee. If that breaks down and it starts rubbing bone on bone, that is bad news. And I think we're already there with Joel Embiid.
Especially when you're a 300-pound player trying to run.
I think it is over with. Every time I've watched him, I see the exact same thing. He's just not close to the same player. And I don't think any level of rest is going to get him back to that.
Yeah, it is just crazy. Like, and we can get off this topic because this is not a Philadelphia 76ers podcast, but it is so interesting how Philly has, obviously they have Joel, and he's been a fantastic player for them. They went out and got Paul George, who's been once again in and out of the lineup.
And they're bad when he's in the lineup.
And they're bad when he's been terrible with them. They got Tyrese Maxey over there, who Christian and I know Tyrese, not personally. We saw him in high school. We got to cover him at his McDonald's All-America game. And he is a phenomenal basketball player. Like, I think he's almost overlooked because of the narratives that are around his team with Joel and with Paul being in and out of the lineup. Is Tyrese Maxey the kind of guy that you would go flush this whole thing out, like get all, and let's build around him, go for the number 1 pick, get Cooper Flag, and just build behind Cooper Flag and Tyrese Maxey?
if that was the option, then yeah.
That's the only choice they have, though.
Yeah.
Forward. But I think the option they're running into is see if Joel Embiid can do this again. Let's see if
That's what they're going to do.
ever put it back
That's what they're gonna
together.
do. Yeah.
And Paul George, is he going to suck the rest of his career? Or?
And
They have
who's
two
gonna want Paul George? Like you got to trade.
They have two guys that are clearly on like the
back
swan
burner.
song years.
Yeah.
They're on the back nine.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. This is shout out to the Philadelphia 76ers podcast. We just gave you all about 10-15 minutes of content to talk about. So anyway, all right. Let's get to the last topic. And this is an interesting one, man. The Kansas Jayhawks have now fallen out of the top 25. We had to look this up because it's pretty silly. They have been in the top 25 now for, is it 80 straight weeks? It's February 2021.
1,477 days.
They have been in the top 25, and they are on the year of our Lord 2025, February 24th. They are out, baby. They are out. I mean, and rightfully so. They just lost by 34 to BYU. They are, I think they lost like 5 or 6 games in a row. They're they've got 9 losses this year. They're just not the team that everybody expected after starting number 1 in the AP poll at the beginning of the year. Is this a personnel issue, or is Bill Self, is he washed? Is like, what's going on? Is Kansas, are they a dangerous team going into the postseason? Or are they just out?
Gabe, you take it. We talked about this pre-show, and you had some really good points.
I think they could be tricky in the tournament as an 8-9 seed. If you thought about like the 8-9 line, you could have UConn, Kansas, Gonzaga, like
good God,
like a lot of blue blood sitting there.
Imagine a UConn.
I don't
with UConn would suck. Anyway, go ahead.
I don't think it's a coincidence at all that since Hunter Dickinson has joined that team, they have fallen off a cliff.
Wow.
I personally think the thought of Hunter Dickinson versus the reality of Hunter Dickinson is completely different, and it's a big disappointment. It's a big letdown. You have to be very intentional about getting him the ball, and that's not how Bill Self has run his program when he's run it at the highest of levels. Like winning a championship, like think about O'Shea Agbaji, you had Grady Dick, you had Jalen Wilson, you had guys who could score at all 3 levels, who could handle the ball, who could assist guys, who could do some things like that. Hunter Dickinson is just a one-way offensive player who can rebound and score at the rim well. And you have to get him his touches, or else he's just like, what's he doing out there?
Yeah.
So like, he's a good player. He's been a National Player of the Year, running a couple of times. Like I'm not hating on Hunter Dickinson and the stats that he has accrued. I just don't think it fits Bill Self at all. And I think when you look at Hunter Dickinson's last stop with Juwan Howard, who no longer is coaching at Michigan, got fired, I thought he absolutely lifted up what Hunter Dickinson's ceiling was. And Bill Self can't do that because Bill Self doesn't coach that way. He doesn't. Right. He's not big dependent. They're dependent on creators and guys that can play on the perimeter, and he does none of that. I just think the stats look good for Hunter Dickinson, but he poses a problem with any team that he's on. I don't think
empty calories.
Yeah, I think he's a good player. I don't think he has done anything to help that Kansas situation. They spent a lot of money on him.
He's like $2 million NIL.
Yeah, they spent a lot of money on this guy, and he's just, I don't know. He's like old school college basketball. Let's get new school. Let's get up there.
I got 2 Memphis related questions with this. Dane Danger or Hunter Dickinson?
I mean, Hunter Dickinson, but like,
what? Come on, no way. All right,
what a terrible question. Kenny, I love you. That's a terrible question.
All right, let's go. Let's go. Second question. I'm gonna redeem it. I'm gonna redeem it on the second question. Memphis gets a 6th seed in the south portion of the bracket, the southern portion of the bracket. And the next thing they know, they look up and they got the 11 seed Kansas Jayhawks in the first round. How Memphis would that be? Like, would that suck?
That would suck.
That'd be ultimate. That is ultimate. Like Memphis finally gets a high seed in the NCAA tournament, has to play a blue blood with Hunter Dickinson. Like that is the most Memphis like high seeded tournament.
8-9 matchup with UConn.
UConn.
Oh God.
That's probably
There's going to be some really interesting like middle tier seeds this year.
There's
Yeah.
going to be
fun to
some
watch.
super interesting. It's going to be fun. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
All right, boys. Well, we appreciate everybody for joining us tonight. If you're watching on YouTube, you can like, subscribe, and comment there. If you're listening via Apple, Spotify, or any other podcast platform, you can do the same things there. You can also go to bluffcitymedia.co and check out all the articles, podcasts, and videos on the site. Once again, we appreciate you guys for joining us, and we will see you back here next week.
Thank you for listening to On the Bluff. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a rating and a review wherever you download your podcasts. Also, like and subscribe to Bluff City Media's YouTube page. Head over to www.bluffcitymedia.co for comprehensive coverage of Memphis sports and how you can become an insider.